This is my collar stand, and this is my collar. These are my pattern pieces. There's no seam allowance on the pattern piece. And I've cut my interfacing exactly to the shape of the finished piece with no seam allowance. And if I just fold that over and double check here, I can see that my fused interfacing fills out the collar stand, leaving seam allowances open. And what that gives me is a stitching line. One of the most important parts of this will be getting this seam pressed open. And I use this clapper a lot to do things like that. So I'm going to go around and trim all of this pretty closely. Right now I'll just show you this corner. Just kind of curve around. And then I always just kind of leave an extra, some extra down here so that I don't lose fabric there, because that's kind of the tricky part. And the other thing I need to do is to clip it. So let me show you. So it should be kind of curved. And then I clip little triangles out. This is just how I do it. You know, everybody can. I think what happens if you sew a lot of shirts is that you just gradually develop your way that works, and it just comes from your own personal experience. So by clipping all these little triangles out, it's going to turn a very nice rounded corner, and I'll be able to press that. Okay, I've finished all my pressing, and I've gotten it as perfect as I can get it, where this side and this side are exactly the same, so that when I sew this onto the bodice, this is the shirt, and when I sew this onto the bodice, I want these two to be as equal as they can possibly be. And this little point here is the hardest part to sew, and so that's why I spend time making sure that I've pressed it so that it folds in as smoothly as I can possibly get it. Now you'll notice I still have a pretty wide seam allowance here, and that will eventually be cut off, but I leave it because it makes it so much easier to handle. Okay, now at this point I've actually started to pin the collar stand onto the bodice, and I just wanted to show you how that looks. It almost looks like it's not working because there's such a difference between these two lengths here. And all you have to do is pull it. So the stitching line is going to be going right about here. It's about 1/2 inch. It's going to go right there, and eventually that seam allowance will be trimmed away and it'll be clipped. But for now, to get the darn thing on, I stretch it and I pin it, and then I will actually clip these, because at this point I'm confident in my cutting, I'm confident in my pattern, and I'm actually going to wind up clipping these enough that when I sit down to sew, I'm going to be able to get a nice straight line here with this, and I'm going to stitch right in the fold that I pressed in. Okay? And down it goes. And you can see I'm lined right up with that 1/2 inch line mark. Okay. So I just I've sewn it on, and now you can see from the back what it looks like when it's been stitched, and from this side you can see how this will just fold right down. Okay, so I always start in the middle, in the back, and I'm using my edge stitching foot. I've got the whole thing pinned on and ready to go. I'm going to stitch around the entire collar stand. So by the time I get to this front point, I should feel pretty warmed up and confident. Be able to just get right in there. This is always the part where I just do a couple stitches at a time sometimes. Okay. Ta-da! There's my collar stand. I'm gonna go press it. Almost perfect.